everyone, I'm Dominique and I'm here with Drew and his puppy Yoli, and today we're going to be talking about van life and his life living in a cargo trailer.
Hi, I'm Drew. I currently live in a 2017 cargo trailer build-out. She's 12 feet long with a wedge front, single axle. I started off in van life in a 1995 GMC Vandura high top that I got in Quartzsite, Arizona. I've been traveling full-time for the last 2.5 years, but I've had the van for going on 5. I've been in the trailer now for coming up on 1 full year next month. The van and the trailer are all self-builds, as you can see from the craftsmanship. And I travel with my 11-year-old dog, Yoli, who basically captains the ship since day one. She's been on every trip with me. We've done 38 states, 2 separate countries, thousands of miles, hundreds of parks, and lots of walks. I chose van life because I felt like conventional living never really stuck with me. Had a house for a while, did the 9 to 5 trips every once in a while, vacations when I could, and it just seemed to be a concept that resonated even before the communal part of van life came into play. So it was coming out here to Joshua Tree and for a weekend or 5 days, or traveling to Tahoe and spending some time on the lake. But not until the concept of being able to make this my life or a longer term period did it finally click to be like, there's no other choice. This is the way to go. So the time frame where I was starting was probably mid 2017, so before the big craze, I guess you could say. It was starting to pick up steam, but it was pre-COVID and pre a lot of situations, so it wasn't as big a drive. The vehicles were a lot cheaper. I did a lot of research on powertrain and reliability and application. I'd never owned a full-size van before. I'd owned dozens and dozens of vehicles, but never that. So I was just trying to do as much research as possible, reading up on fuel economy, payload, tow capacities, and someone gave me a good piece of advice, and they said that your vehicles are a lot like your dogs, right? So you have a dog that can swim and run and do all these things, and then you have another one that's a great little cuddler, or can do other things. You'll never have everything in a van. So like starting off with the first van, it's single wheel drive, very heavy but very comfortable. Everything's in one place. You have those amenities, and then you go to a trailer like this where you can tow it in, you can leave it behind, you can take your other truck out, you can explore. So you're never always going to get everything in one vehicle, but it just depends on what you're doing in your lifestyle and how it can accommodate. So if you want to get started on the road, or you're interested in van life, do as much research as possible. Keeping the key factor of getting out there and discovering and experiencing, and not having a perfect unit and not having perfect, everything like you see on TV in the social marketing era. But what you're going to do is you're going to find something that works for you, both economically, physically, emotionally. You're going to understand and see that everything resonates once you start to live in this vehicle, because you're attaching your moments and your time to that tangible item. I feel a lot of unwritten rules on the road would consist of what you give is what you can receive. A lot of the time we're out here for a sole purpose. When you're doing vacations and when you're doing trips, it's a different concept. But out here you can totally capture and obtain so much more if you're willing to give and be open to ideas, to other people's concepts, to other people's lifestyles, to energy, to all the concepts that encompass what we're doing out here. It's so much more than just a bunch of people driving around and stopping at places and partying or whatever. It's growth, it's pain, it's life, it's so many different aspects that you can totally appreciate. But you have to be open to taking in. It's not all about what you're giving out, or what you can share, or what you can say, or what you can tell about yourself. Sometimes it's just being and sharing space, and listening to somebody, or you know, helping someone out, or demonstrating love or kindness in the way that you can. It's the best way to give back to the community that's given to you. There's many different ways to earn money and be productive on the road in order to finance your trip, whether it be for repairs, for gas, or for whatnot. First and foremost, in my rule book, the best way to have or make money is to save money. So by not doling out things for unnecessarily tasks or items that you may not need but just want. Minimalism is such a great concept in this world because it limits you. It brings you back to center on things that are necessary, as opposed to just items that you're acquiring to fulfill. So that would be rule one for me. Two is there's remote work. Obviously, there's items where there's online work for sales, for capturing marketing ads and things like that. And this is a great networking platform. Being around people like this, a lot of us are working remotely. A lot of us are have jobs that aren't necessarily making you drive into a location, a brick and mortar, or clock in. So keeping your ear open once again and utilizing the space to converse with other nomads can bring you closer to that. I personally worked as a bartender this last summer at a brewery in Oregon, and it was a brilliant experience. Knowing that you can get out there and make money as you're going, and keeping your overhead low can put yourself in a very promising situation for future travel. One thing that I would definitely look into or change about this particular build is noise dampening and further insulation. The roof is insulated with 3/4 inch foam, as are the walls, but as you guys know, insulation value versus sound dampening are two different things. This particular trailer is real thin gauge aluminum sheet on the outside, aluminum rib, veneer plate, and then foam. So for sound, when the doors are closed, when the wind's going, or when you're at an event and people are partying past your bedtime, it's good to have something where you can come back and still be able to sleep without having to put white noise on and blasting it. So that's definitely one thing that I would recommend while you're doing your insulation, is backing it with some sound barrier. So that way, it also helps with insulation value, but you're able to stay a little bit quieter in the cab and enjoy nights a little bit more, especially for that urban camping. That really comes in handy. This build is 1,650 pounds dry. Right now, I'm sitting at close to 3,800 pounds. And don't take my model on this. This is 3,820 pounds before I lighten the load, so I might be right around 3,500. And manufacturer spec is 2,990, so I'm overweight by a little bit. So what I'll have to do is take the axle. You can either cut weight or make it more structurally integral. So I'm going to be taking the axles out and switching those to a 5,000 pound axle, so that way I'll have plenty of extra load capacity. This particular rig is lifted, so I did an axle flip system, and then I also went with a larger tire. So this is a 235/75 R15. So that's pretty much the tallest I can get in a good trailer tire. You want to make sure that you are running trailer tires on these and not regular truck tires. So it's going to start with an ST if you guys are looking at those. So most of the trailers are bulk like this, bulkhead. This one's a pitched front like that, so you're utilizing the space for like a kitchen. But then your load, right? So you want to keep your load between the axle and the front, more narrowed around the axle, because that's where the payload's supposed to be. So that's why the fridge and a lot of the heavier equipment is right here, but my batteries are in front. Most people put their batteries and their gas and their water tanks are in the back, but for the trailer I find it a little bit more stable if you center it up in the center. So my fresh water and my gray are dead center, along with the batteries that are up in the front, which are 2 AGMs. Fuse panel, and then everything trickles to the back by way of power. But I think it's definitely essential when you're in a trailer to balance the load. So if you can kind of keep track of materials, like this is solid 3/4 inch ply. A lot of these materials are made out of wood because I wanted it super sturdy, but I also wanted to have positions to mount things. Like I can mount the heater and not worry about it falling off. The trailer's going to get a lot of up and down and rumbling for the areas that I'm going to, so you got to make sure that things are going to stay where they're at, and that when you get back into the trailer, it's not just a big shamble hurricane went off. So it's nice to know that things are still going to be here. But for the most part, as long as things that, you know, rock and move or down on the lower area, I come back to what I left it at, and it seems to work. This trailer's name's Paco, because I park a lot of crap in it. One thing that a lot of people never really talk about is I use this. This is a temperature gun. This is a great little gadget, and I'm sure there's thousands of other guns out there or gadgets that are great, but this is the one thing that comes to mind. So sometimes in colder weather or in hotter weather, you can actually take this gun and run it along the beads, along the door, or into the floor, and you can find out where you're losing your temperatures from. So either you can have temperature loss from the floor, you can have it from a bad seal around a door, or a skylight, or a back door, and this is a good way to kind of identify where you're at on your materials or your insulation values on things. It kind of comes in handy. Also, one thing that triggered this was, or was a great use, is when we have solar that's on the top of our units, we park in direct light, right? And we're running fans to keep it cool inside, but at the same time we're cooking. And I was using this to hit the sand outside. Like right now it's roughly 60 degrees out, 64 degrees, but that sand is showing 93 degrees. So knowing areas that are cooler, maybe the moisture in the soil might be a little different, can definitely save the cabin temperature on your units by parking in the right areas and being able to identify where your temperatures are coming and going. I would say that my favorite part about being a nomad is I've always struggled with being present. It was always next, or what else, or what I could be doing. And being nomadic, you're able to conquer that ability and that desire to change locations and even your audience or your friends that you're sharing space with, your family or your friends. But it puts you in control at almost all points to be able to navigate and change and guide where you want your energy to be. So it allows you or helps you to be present in the moment. And I never really understood the importance of that. I always thought, oh, I have this bad memory, or that was a great place, I think. Let me go back to my pictures, right? We spend so much time behind a camera or behind a phone taking pictures of the moment to gather either a memory or show it to someone else. But how often do we put it down, take a breath, and just look into what's in front of us? I mean, oh, I went to the Grand Canyon. What was your favorite part? Oh, well, we got to take a shot of, in front of the lodge or something like that. But it's like, did you ever have a moment where it's like, I took a breath, or I was sitting there next to my dad and I just felt that I was exactly where I needed to be. Moments like that are the things that we should be gathering, not pictures or bumper stickers or keychains. So in the end, when that keychain ends up in the bottom of a drawer somewhere, you'll still have that memory. Where are the favorite places that I've lived while being on the road? That's an interesting concept, because that's the money question. I would have to say, I've been in a lot of beautiful places. Bend, Oregon is amazing. Tahoe, back east in upstate New York. There's a lot of geography. There's a lot of areas that were beautiful by the eye, but I would have to say it's in the moments where I was spending it with friends and family. Those are the parts that make it just so much more beautiful. I was helping a guy at an event called Van Aid in Addendale this last year, and he said something that resonated with me. He said, a lot of us are out here trying to figure out survival, whether that's guiding through emotion or trauma, or we're just trying to make it financially, or maybe they're running from something, maybe they're running towards something. But we're all in survival mode pretty much when we start this, and it's not till it moves from survival to thrive. So from survive to thrive that we're able to just grasp this concept of nomadic living and life on the road. And that kind of resonated with me because it's not so much always where you're at, but it's who you're with, and I still believe that. And so the moments that resonate when I think about the best spots and the most beautiful spots, it's Descend on Bend. It's it's the staircase in Utah with friends like Rita and John and the Allens and all the people that I've traveled with. It's events that were not planned. Good Vibe Collectives. We've got all these different circles of friends. You've got Kift, you've got Good Vibe, you've got all these different atmospheres and peoples and energy that are able to influence and accommodate, and it's just a beautiful time to be able to transverse from one to the next and absorb and entertain all the energies that you have, but still taking in this beautiful country. What is one piece of advice that I would give to people in van life is don't wait for things to be perfect. That build that you have, that you haven't finished the fridge, or you haven't finished out the trim on the cabinets, or you haven't painted, or this or that. One thing you can always count on when you go to look at someone else's build is when they started out or when you walk in is going to be, it's a mess, I'm sorry, I'm in the middle of. Those are the three things that you're always going to hear. So that never goes away. So don't wait for the perfect moment or the perfect build to gather the perfect memory. So turn the key, hook it up to the trailer, whatever you got to do, but just get out and experience and learn and see. Because time is what you're chasing, not the perfect picture or the perfect build or anything. Get in it, and as long as it's safe and it can house you, I say go, send it. From here, I'm hoping to make my way towards Arizona and then down into Mexico. I have a couple trips planned throughout the year, Costa Rica and Kenya. But as for domestic, just bouncing around the West Coast, enjoying this sunny, beautiful weather.